Hello there fellow acolytes, I have another review for you. This time it's for the recently released Mega Man 11. So viewers of mine will probably be aware that I got into the Mega Man franchise pretty recently. It was this year in fact, and honestly I've kind of fallen in love with it, particularly the mainline series. So the second game was my first experience with a Mega Man title, but for me like the tip top is Mega Man 8. I mean, when the game upped its visual style, I think it also improved the quality of the gameplay, and it was just overall like a massive jump from the NES style. When it went to the NES style for Mega Man 9 and 10, I was a little bit disappointed. They're quite good games, but honestly I felt like it was a little bit of a step back. Especially because Mega Man couldn't do things like, slide and even charge in Mega Man 9. Anyway, so we got the announcement of Mega Man 11, and it seemed to be throwing away the NES style and went with more of a 2.5D art style instead. I wasn't initially sold with the art style at first, but I was kind of looking forward to a Mega Man that wanted to take a step forward rather than just kind of wallow in the NES style. After having beaten the game and replaying the stages, doing the extra stuff, do I think it's any good? Or do I think it's, like Mighty Number 9? Well, let's find out. The story of Mega Man 11 is pretty simple. Wily remembers the gear system he worked on during his youth, and he decides to redevelop it and test it on a bunch of Lights robots. The gear system makes them stronger or faster, and basically in order to deal with them, Mega Man needs to be fitted with the same gear system. You go out, you take down the 8 Robot Masters, you head over to Wily Tower, you take him out. It's that simple. It really is. There's no twists. No Proto Man, no base, no extra castles, nothing like that. It's a very basic Mega Man story, but honestly, it doesn't really need to be anything more. I mean, we're all here for the tight and fun gameplay that, Mega Man is renowned for, so the lack of story is not really an issue. One thing that is an issue with the story though is that the game's presented through cutscenes, and whilst they are well animated and acted kind of alright, they are very long. The game basically has practically no story, so when the cutscenes play you don't really see any kind of point to them. The introductory cutscene in particular is like way too long. I mean, I just made like a cup of tea during it. You can skip them, so it's not a major problem, and to be honest I would advise you do so. Even if you've not seen them before, then believe me, you're not missing anything. The one thing I'll say is that after you've beaten the final boss, which, surprise surprise, is Wily, you may want to watch the cutscenes that are after that. They're not too long and they are quite entertaining too. From a visual standpoint, the game looks surprisingly good. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't initially sold on the visual art style because it reminded me of like Mighty Number 9, but then as more footage became available, I started to like it more and more. And after playing it, I can say that I actually like the art style quite a lot. I do prefer the detailed sprites that are in Mega Man 7 and 8, but 11 still looks pretty stunning. The aesthetics of the different stages fit perfectly to each Robot Master and look great too. Blast Man is set inside a circus, Torch Man's inside a forest camp, it all just fits. The animation is also pretty much spot on. Mega Man jumps, slides, shoots as you'd expect him to. They really have kind of painstakingly recreated his movement from the NES games to keep people happy. There's also a few nice little touches as well, which shows how much effort's been put in. All the enemies have their own personalities. There's an insane turkey which is on fire for some reason in Torchman's stage, which is just screaming basically. There's the welding robot in Impact Man's stage, which looks really sad and downtrodden. They really are nice to look at, and it just adds that extra bit of quality that they didn't have to do, but they did, and the game really benefits from it. All in all, I'd say that the visuals are basically the rightful evolution of the series, and this is what should have come after Mega Man 8. I can understand why they went back to the NES visuals back in 9 and 10, but now we're in a gaming era where indie games do the 8-bit sprite styles all the time, so now it would have just felt lazy if they'd have continued doing that. Unfortunately, the audio department is where the game starts to lack. The voice acting is decent, as I mentioned before, but it's not like fantastic. It's fine for what it is, it never gets grating, but the main issue the game has is with the music. It's not bad, not all, and it fits with each stage, just isn't really as catchy or as memorable as in like the other 10 titles. You get the occasional good tune like Acid Man, for example. But most of the time you end up getting stuff like, Blast Man, which isn't bad, but you won't remember it like seconds after you finish listening to it. Given that Mega Man games usually have amazing, memorable tunes, this was one area where I feel that the game didn't quite live up to my expectations. So then we have the gameplay, which of course is the real star of the show. As I mentioned in the story part, the main gimmick revolves around the double gear system. Use the power gear for souped up attacks, or use the speed gear to slow down time. Neither last very long, they just give you a bit of a marginal advantage over like an obstacle or an enemy. There's also a super gear attack, which is available when you're near death, and it allows you to activate both of them simultaneously, and you can do a special super damaging attack. And it's designed to help you have a tight spot. When the concept was initially announced, it felt like something they were putting in to cater to newcomers, and it would be something that existing players would just stay clear of. But, I'm glad to say this isn't the case. On the normal difficulty, the game's really hard, even when you're using the gears. It's possible to go without using the gears at all, but there are some areas and some bosses that would just be too difficult to do without, proper gear usage. They really have balanced it quite well, so it works as a gameplay gimmick and not like a crutch for weaker players. Especially because it's not just you that's being fitted with a gear system, so are the bosses too, and they'll use it to their full advantage. Some of them will use the power gear and become like super-sized behemoths, others will use a speed gear and they'll move around super fast. If you don't retaliate using the gears, you're gonna have a hell of a time. And if you play on normal or superhero, you will have a hell of a time. As per Mega Man tradition, the game is pretty damn hard. The levels are a lot longer. They're divided normally into 3 long sections, and then you've got a checkpoint breaking them up. And of course you've got a boss at the end and mini bosses in between. So most levels kind of feel a bit like a gauntlet. You have to try and survive and reach the end without running out of lives. You can tone down the difficulty, of course, if you're having a really difficult time, and the easier difficulties do help make it accessible to everyone, but I would recommend sticking with the normal difficulty. The game is rarely unfair, and mistakes are usually just your fault. There was only one place in the game where I felt cheated, and that was right at the end of Tundra Man stage. There's a bit of precise jumping involved over bottomless pits, and the game didn't really seem to register my jump at the right moment. I mean, that was the only time in the game that I experienced that, so I'm not sure what the deal is with this bit. But that's just a thing I'm mentioning, maybe you don't have any issues. Anyway, as well as the gear system, you also have other handy things to help. Auto runs a shop where you can purchase E-tanks to fill your health, you can get extra lives, etc, or you can get an upgrade. The upgrades are fantastic, and like in the later Mega Man games, they give you different abilities to aid your progress. You can get an upgrade to increase health drops, to automatically charge your buster, move at normal speed during speed gear, and many more. None of them feel like particularly overpowered, but they definitely help. Of course, you also get new weapons every time you beat a Robot Master, and honestly this is probably my second favourite weapon lineup after Mega Man 8. Most of the weapons feel either unique or provide extra utility. Acid Man's weapon, for example, is a shield. Now you have shield games in a lot of games, and compared to other games, the shield in itself is nothing special, but it offers an acid gun in addition to the shield. You get other things like Tundra Man's ice is basically a screen nuke of icy wind. And Impact's Man is like an air-dashing, exploding drill, which is fantastic to use and fantastic to navigate the levels with. Now I won't spoil the weapons for you, but personally I think Impact and Bounce are my favourite. You also get access to Rush Jet later on in the game and Rush Coil from the start of the game to provide extra platforming aids. They work pretty much as they do in the other games, although Jet doesn't really seem to travel as far without running out of energy. But it's still great and, very useful as always. After beating the 8 long stages, you get access to the Wily Castle. And, honestly, it's rather easy. It's not the most imaginative in design out of the series, but it's still fun and includes some great bosses. And even though the ending is a little anticlimactic, as I say, the final cutscene kind of makes up for it. The main thing is that the game doesn't end when you beat the main game. In addition to the main single player, there's various challenge modes. You get stuff like time trials, but then you get nice little twists as well, such as a medal collecting mode or trying not to jump. And there's a neat little one which is my personal favourite, which is collecting balloons. So this one you have to collect blue balloons and avoid red balloons. It basically requires you to think outside the box and traverse the levels differently to how you would in the main game, so it gives you an extra incentive to go back to the different levels and try and get through them in a slightly different way. There's also a playground challenge mode which doesn't have access to the leaderboards like the other challenges, but enables you to refight the sub-bosses and the main bosses. It's really good because it helps practice your boss fights. Think of it like the boss refights in the Legacy Collection where you could access through the art gallery. It's basically that, but just, challenges. So, as you may have realised by now, I dig the game quite a bit. After extensive playing, I would say it's probably my 3rd favourite Mega Man game of all time. Obviously, out of the ones I've played. It does have flaws that mean it doesn't come, close to the other two, but it's still a damn good title, and I would say it's definitely worth the asking price. If you're a fan of the series, or you just like platformers, I would definitely recommend picking this up. Well, thanks a lot for watching. If you've played Mega Man 11, drop a comment below and let me know what you think of it. If not, then just go and buy the damn game. It really is that good. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.